Greetings, it is me once again, G minus Mark, back with the episode I think I'm most excited about talking about because there are two meetings that meant the absolute most to me, Johnny Cash and Jack Cochran. So, doing the Jack Cochran one is a special one for me. One quick thing, quick response. Patrick Etienne, I hope I've said your last name correctly, requested that I could stay still for 3 seconds. So, okay, here we go. I'll address this briefly. When I was a kid, I was in a serious car accident and I took some traumatic head injuries. And after that, my dad said I was never the same. I was quirky. That quirkiness turned out to be a pretty severe ADD, which I was diagnosed with by a psychologist about 8 years ago, and I did the whole try and fix it by going on prescription drugs, and I was on Adderall for 8 years, which started at 5 milligrams a day and wound up at 40. I don't mean to interject a serious thing like that into my story, but I think it's important that if you're going to watch my videos, you may have to understand the way I behave sometimes. At Christmas, I quit Adderall. One of my best friends who passed away, Howie Pyro, was trying to get me to quit for a long time. And when I quit, he said, the last things he said to me is, "I'm really proud of you. That stuff was hurting you." He passed away a few months after that, so I've kept my promise not to go back on the medication, but it does make me a bit worse. So if I ramble and I'm kind of forgetful and I'm doing this, I can't help it. If anyone ever wants to ask me about the horrors of Adderall, not getting too serious, just PM me. But back to the story. Maybe I should have put that at the end, but I don't plan these things, I just talk. Jack Cochran, Jackie Lee Cochran, is one of mine and one of my lifelong and absolute oldest best friends. Mark Lamar, who I knew as Yogi, and back then we were obsessed with Jackie Lee Cochran. I can't even remember what started that, but I remember we were just obsessed. He was our favorite. We looked for everything. And at a time, I do remember there used to be a record store in London owned by a wonderful person called Terry Jones, and it was called Spinning Disc. And when Mark lived in Swindon, we would often get a train from Swindon up to London, and we'd get on the tube all day, the subway. We'd go to all the record stores, and the biggest thrill was always going to Spinning Disc because they would trade, so you could take records you'd found and trade with them. And I remember I was with Mark, and we were in Spinning Disc, and I had not heard "I Want to See You" / Georgia Lee Brown on Jaguar, and Terry had like a 70s Mariano bootleg of it, and Mark was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it," because he had no money. We'd spent all our money. He was like, "This is the one, this is the one," and he kept saying to me, and I remember this so clearly. He kept saying, "Oh, you should hear it." He goes, "I want to see you, point blank. I want to see the whites of your eyes." I was like, "This sounds great." He's going, I'm sick. I got no money. And I had some money. So I kind of secretly, as we were walking out, I'd kind of said to Terry, "I'll buy it for him." So I bought it and I snuck it under my coat. And we'll walk into the tube from, where was it? What was the, I've gone blank as to the tube station. But anyway, we're walking from the store back to the tube station. And Mark's like, you should hear it. He goes, "I want to see you, point blank. I want to see the whites of your eyes." And then eventually I go, "I got it for you." He doesn't remember that. I mentioned that to him. But anyway, we were obsessed with him, and he was playing in the Isle of Wight. There was a rockabilly festival. Oh, I think it was the Isle of Wight. Well, it was somewhere. And we were really, really thrilled to go and see him. And I took everything I owned by him, every Rolling Rock 45, every LP. I went to the library and Xeroxed from this album. Let me see if I can find it. There's a picture of Jack there, and he had this amazing cardboard, not cardboard, sorry, wood cut out behind him, and he went as Jack the Cat. So I'd taken this to like maybe a copy shop it was actually, and had them blow it up so I could get him to sign that. And we watched him play, and I don't remember anything about it. I wasn't drunk or anything. I just don't remember. It's so long ago. I mean, it was the early '80s for sure. And it's funny because I asked Mark before I did this. I said, "Look, this is what I remember. What do you remember?" And I sketched through everything I could think of, and he's like, "The only thing I remember is he changed the words on buy a car, or was it I want?" No, I changed the word. He changed the words on I want you. I'm like, oh, okay, well. So we got to see him, and I think Mark was trying to get an interview with Jack to use for Kicks magazine. This would have been about the time that Kicks #3 was out. So I'm going to put this around 83 or something like that. And he's like, sure, you guys come back to chalet is what we called it in England. It was, these things would be on holiday camps and some would be on caravan camps. And this one had not caravans, it had, like, in the UK you had things like butlins, and they were like these little self-contained rooms. So he invited us back, and we got to spend, I want to say it was about 30 minutes with Jackie Lee Cochran in his room, and I was starstruck. I mean, it's Jack the Cat, and he was just totally cool. He kind of reminded me, and this just could be my brain, painting pictures, but he really reminded me of Jerry Reed's character in Smokey and the Bandit. He was snappy. He was this little wiry Southern California guy, and I remember we were in his room, and he was kind of changing his shirt. Finished playing and all. He's talking to us as he does that, and he's going, "Man," he said, "I just did these shows in Europe." He said, "I was just in," I think he said Sweden, could have been Germany. He said, "There were these girls, and they were having me sign their thighs." He was really excited. He said, "One girl had me sign her boobs." He was like, "These girls," he said, "these girls are just crazy," and he was really excited about it. And we got to talking to him. I can't remember anything except for apologizing for the amount of things that I had taken to sign. I've got a poster on my wall, and I tried, a framed one, and I tried to pull it off, but it looked like I might have destroyed everything. I don't know if you can see the autographs. But yeah, the poster came in this one, and that was what he signed. But the one thing that was really thrilling for me was we were obsessed with hearing Endless Love by him. It's not that that's some great rockabilly record. It's just that Pity Me had come out on this LP, which was, or did it? Well, Pity Me came out on something, because we'd finally heard that. And Endless Love was the only track we had not heard, because that hadn't been reissued on anything. So I was like, Jack was like, what was Endless Love like? And I remember he said, oh man, he kind of paused. It's like we caught him in a memory. He went, Endless Love. He said, I haven't heard that record since like 1963 or something. He said, I wish I had a copy of that record. And he got his guitar. I didn't mean to pick this one up. It's probably out of tune. But he basically just went, oh, that song. And he went, my love is endless. Just that much. That was what he did. And that stuck in my brain for at least another decade until I did hear that song, which is a beautiful ballad. So he signed everything. He was really cool to us. And Mark had him sign his arm, which he got tattooed over. And I remember as we were leaving, we ran into Jack again, and he was busy. He was having to go somewhere. And Mark said, hey. And Jackie went, and gave him a pick. And I bet Mark still got that. So that was for me, that's an unforgettable moment. I still love Jack Cochran. I think he was the best artist on Rolling Rock for the original 50s artist. I mean, they were great. Ray Canby was great. So many of them were great. But if you listen to Jackie Lee Joaquin Cochran because he adopted the Joaquin because of his Native American heritage. You will hear how powerful they were. And Hungry Hill by him is an absolute classic. So, none more I love than Jack Lee Cochran, and that was absolutely my favorite person that I ever met. Apart from maybe Johnny Cash. But that's another story. Let me sit still for another 3 seconds.